Hello, hello, hello. How's everybody doing today? As always, I'm Brad, that's Mike, we're Dallas Geek, and we are your source for all of the latest nerdy news and geek culture.
Are we?
I'd like to think so.
Okay.
I mean, we try at least. Well, try at least.
Yeah, that's better.
But I will say, this may be the first time this year that we've actually been able to go live without some kind of flub, hiccup, at least technically. I mean, I'm sure we're still going to be, dropping all over the place and just, but yeah, sure.
And how long have we been doing this?
Prefer not to say.
There you go.
But guys, seriously, thank you so much for joining us today on this lovely Wednesday afternoon.
Is it lovely?
I like to pretend.
It's September and it's still like 90 degrees outside.
I like to pretend.
Okay.
But guys, thank you so much. And if you saw last week's live show, you'll know that this is the part 2 to our deep dive into the absolute dumpster fire that is, the Warner Brothers Discovery thing.
This is the electric boogaloo.
Yeah, but
yes.
Specifically, what we're talking about today is
what, Brad? What are we talking about today?
Ryan Reynolds dropped the teaser for Deadpool 3, and I can't handle myself. I love that man, and I would do horrible things for him.
Bring your hands above the table, please. Okay, just making sure. Just making sure.
But no. We could also talk about the whole behind the scenes kerfuffle, I believe it was, with the new Olivia Wilde movie. Why am I suddenly blanking on this? The Olivia Wilde hairstyles, Florence Pugh.
Don't forget Chris Pine.
Who could ever forget Chris Pine?
The hell is the name of that movie anyway?
That's a very good question. It was just out there.
Don't worry, darling.
Don't worry, darling. There it is. Or, we could always...
Which apparently has just been...
Yeah. Or, we could also
apparently
talk
Olivia
about...
Wilde is like the worst person ever.
Or we could talk about the, the long-term production hell that apparently is Ted Lasso Season 3, if it'll ever finish. Because it's been going, a year and a half? Something like that?
Well, it's not like the guy's wife was banging Harry Styles. Oh, wait. Oh, funny. We tied 2 stories into one.
Hadn't even thought about that one.
Yeah.
But no. The thing that we're actually talking about, because...
But no, seriously, his wife was banging
I
Harry's,
know.
Yeah,
While
they were
I'm
filming. Yeah. Jesus, the level of dysfunction and what
it's Hollywood.
Actual hell.
It's Hollywood. Come on.
No.
Come on.
No.
Come on.
No. You don't get to just pass that level of dysfunction and scumbaggery off as it's just Hollywood.
Can't we, though?
She kicked Shia LaBeouf off the movie because he's too controversial.
I mean, it's not that he's not.
And then pulled all the shit that she pulled?
I mean, it's not an inaccurate statement that he is. But... Anyway.
I don't disagree, but then you can't turn around and do stuff that shames Shia LaBeouf.
No. So...
And his level of dysfunction.
We're actually going to dive into the ongoing controversy of Warner Brothers Discovery, but we're going to go into a little bit different direction today and specifically talk about the implications of everything that's been going on.
Right.
Because honestly, if you're a bit more on the pessimistic side, like I tend to be, there are some really horrible things that this could be heading towards.
Mm-hmm.
And for once, Mike is the optimist here, and seems to disagree with me on at least a few points. Is that maybe an accurate description, Mike?
Yeah, I think we agree on some stuff. We also disagree on some stuff.
Sure.
You know, I'm not so doom and gloom as you are, so.
You know. Looks like we already have some fans in the comments for you, Mike.
Yeah.
But,
hi.
You want to say hi? Actually acknowledge the people watching us.
Oh, is it too soon for that type of wave?
I mean, not like Charles is going to do it.
That's true. That's true.
Too close to copying Mommy Dearest.
Yeah. The best part about knowing that she's
That's
gone.
Andrew's thing.
Yeah. I guess the best thing about the Queen being gone is that Diana's waiting for her on the other side.
Oh, you know that's probably one of the best.
Oh, yeah. And she is about to
Front
go
row
all
seats.
kinds of Wyatt Earp level, just medieval on her ass.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, to jump into this, so the big issue that we found looking at what all of the money first moves that David Zaslav is doing over at Warner Brothers Discovery, and how they have taken this whole perspective of cut everything we have to, even if it means taking long-time beloved shows like Sesame Street, or major movies that were still in development, like Batgirl, and just trash them and chalk it up as a tax loss that they can get a refund on. The biggest problem that we found with that is it starts a trend that the pessimist here is not entirely convinced that they aren't going to be the canary in the coal mine. And as soon as enough time has passed, maybe a year or so, to see how well this method of just drop the mask and be very blatant about how they don't care about the creative and it's all about the money goes, before the other major studios do exactly the same thing. Because if they do, who's going to challenge them? I mean, they have already proven over the last several years that it doesn't matter if they put out good movies or bad movies, we're still going to go out and see them because we want to see movies. So even if they put out a remake of a remake of a remake starring Adam Sandler, we're still going to go see it because, I mean, what else are we going to watch? Another rerun of Friends? So that's where my head immediately went to, was that if they get away with this and they prove that it does actually end up being an effective way for them to increase profits year after year, that if the other four major studios do exactly the same thing, we as an audience are screwed. We have nothing to look forward to. So, ta-da! Reason to be happy.
You done? Brad, you ignorant slut.
Oh, thank you, Daddy.
Yeah. Canary in a coal mine, huh?
I mean, how would you describe it?
A pendulum. That's how I would describe it, Brad. A pendulum. Maybe over, your head. A half-naked Bond girl. I don't know. Think about it. You'll get there eventually. No, look, the glass is half empty, makes total sense to come up with that, but you're also seeing, or failing to see, the other thing that could happen, which would very, very much just be a pendulum swinging back in the opposite direction. You could see a major studio that gets bought up by somebody that tries to buy up other properties and become a conglomerate. And you could see them try to, like you said, go in for it just for the money, like they're doing right now. And you could see it work. Or you could see it crash and burn like the Hindenburg, and you could see every other studio take one look at it and say, yeah, no, we're not touching that with a 10-foot pole. Now, the other thing that could happen is it could work.
Sure.
And you could still see every other major studio say, you know what? We see that that's working right now, but in 2 years, 3 years, what's really going to be happening? Are audiences really going to keep coming out for the same crap over and over and over? Or do we need to start planning now to do something that's diverse, to bring in newer storytellers, to tell newer stories that are going to actually make people want to invest in coming out to the theater or buying our streaming services?
What in the last 10 years worth of remakes makes you think that's even remotely on their minds?
Well, how have those remakes done?
How much money have they made?
Exactly.
It doesn't matter how they did critically.
No.
How much did they
That's
make?
not what I'm talking about. Because not every remake was successful.
No, but they at least made their money back and then some.
Did they?
Most of them, yeah.
Charlie's Angels.
I said most.
Okay.
I said most.
Yeah. Yeah. No. For every success, there's a failure. For every one that did succeed and turned a somewhat profit, one of them crashed and burned.
Live action Lion King.
Right. Which, did we really need it? No, but apparently Disney has a hard-on for wanting to make live action versions of all of their classic cartoons, which I still don't understand why.
Hey. Pinocchio's on Disney Plus now.
Yeah, how's that doing?
It's got Tom Hanks.
Yeah, how's that doing? And it was
Tom Hanks.
And it was directed by Robert Zemeckis, and people are still shitting on it.
But it has Tom Hanks.
Sure. Bosom buddies there, bud. Yeah, Tom Hanks can do bad things.
Yeah.
Yeah, like steering that ship into pirate-infested waters and getting his entire... Oh, no, wait, that was just a movie. Never mind.
Yeah, no, you are absolutely right.
But this could just be...
It is bad enough that we've already gotten delayed films,
right?
Let alone trashed films and who knows what else.
But there is a very real possibility that this actually does rejuvenate small form storytellers, independent filmmakers. There's a very real possibility that you see some of those production companies that are still independent studios, like Blumhouse, Lionsgate, and a couple of the others that we'll get into here in a minute. Amblin, thank you. There's a very real possibility that you do see them kind of band together and champion the not blockbuster storytelling. Yeah, Pinocchio, just no. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, there are certain stories that it really should never be live action. Certain atrocities should never be allowed to happen.
Yeah, like a creepy old man wanting a puppet to turn into a boy, and his last name's not Epstein. Yeah, I just went there.
Wow.
You're welcome.
We are already going that direction. Got it.
Already. We've been going for 20 minutes. I'm surprised it took this long.
15.
Not fair.
But yeah, I mean, yes, you're not... I would say you're not wrong with that.
Brad, I never am.
That is a possibility.
Of course.
I will admit, but at the same time, it has always been a staple of Hollywood that money is king.
Of course.
And especially now, with everything that we talked about with the Paramount Accords being officially gone,
right.
Antitrust law doesn't really apply to Hollywood as far as consolidating studios together, consolidating vertical
distribution,
ownership, everything into one massive blob of money.
Right.
There's nothing stopping that anymore.
Right.
Now, obviously, if they ever bother breaking out and trying to get the new form of distribution under control,
right.
and buy a service provider,
who would be crazy enough to do that? Come on, never happened.
I mean, Comcast already owns movie studios.
No.
All it takes is one more. But then again, do we really want to see Frontier or Spectrum trying to buy, I don't know, Warner Discovery?
Do they have the money to buy Warner Discovery would be the better question.
with how much they're screwing everybody on internet costs, probably.
That's a fair counterpoint. Jesus, that's a good point.
But no, ultimately, though, I think while time will tell as to whether or not everybody else falls in line with this idea, I think the more prevalent issue that we are looking at is what happens to the movies that get scrapped in the meantime. What happens to the current state of movies if even a few of them just have a temporary shift in perspective and start cutting movies to try to save cost because the whole industry has been hurting and they miss their money.
Well, right, but
like what happens to the content that we're currently missing out on, Well,
the counter to that would be is you got to spend money to make money. You can only cut so many projects before you're not putting anything out, and now you're just losing money.
Well, yeah, but what is the alternative?
Well, the alternative would be you would see, much like Spielberg made the comparison of, superhero movies kind of going the way of Westerns, where, there's an oversaturation. Well, Westerns were also not hard to make. They were cheap to make. Production and editing was low. It was a low turnaround time on them. You could get them out quickly. And more importantly, they made money.
I mean, yes.
Now, are Westerns about to come back?
No.
Probably not.
No.
But this is also what made the horror movie boom of the 80s and early 90s. And then Scream was the revival of the horror movie, specifically the slasher genre.
Yeah.
We have
been seeing a revival with everything Jordan Peele's been putting out.
Right. Get Out. Anything Blumhouse does, basically. Escape Room, the Halloween reboot. They did Happy Death Day. They did Freaky, which was the spin on the spin on Freaky Friday. Blumhouse puts out stuff. Of course they have misses, but more so than anything, they're hitting. They're hitting on stuff that's not making a lot of money. That's not taking a lot of money to make, and they're making money in return.
Sure.
And they're also not just putting out crap left and right. Blumhouse was also responsible for Black Klansman and Whiplash.
Which was surprising to hear, considering those don't really fall in line with all the other stuff that Blumhouse does, but those were unquestionably amazing.
Right.
So
good storytelling and good storytellers will always have a place to find work and will always have an avenue for their creations to be put out for view. If somebody thinks it's a good story, they're going to do whatever they have to do to get it made. There's stories of Coppola with, please help me, the war movie that he made. Apocalypse Now? No.
No, that wasn't Coppola.
No,
was it? No, that was
Son of a bitch, keep talking. But,
okay.
Entourage did an amazing spin-off of that where, I don't know if you watched Entourage, but essentially Vinny Chase was trying to buy the rights to the Pablo Escobar film.
I did see that one.
Right. Because he believed so much in it that he was willing to buy it, put up his own money to do it, anything like that. That was a huge plot point for literally 2 seasons of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have creators that are willing to stick their neck out there...
Yeah, Ford Coppola was Apocalypse.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but he was a producer and director, I believe is who you're trying to think of. What? Nope, it was also him too.
Yeah. There are stories of every bit of hell that he had to put himself through to get that movie made.
Including the legendarily awful to work with.
Martin Sheen.
Try again. Dark, brooding, very, very drunk, severely overweight.
Marlon Brando?
There it is.
I almost said Edward Norton just to troll you. But,
potato.
Yeah. But look, anything anything that has somebody behind it that believes in it will get made. I mean, 5 TV executives passed on Lost, and it ended up being the biggest show on TV for a 4 to 5 year run.
Sure.
Also made by the greatness of J.J. Abrams.
So, my contrast to that is we're talking about spaghetti westerns and horror movies, which partly because of what they are, partly because they are traditionally more small budget, low production, very rough production, have never been attractive to the big studios. I mean, there's a reason why the vast majority of horror movies, especially, are not made by one of the big five.
Right.
Now, I understand that they have done some. I'm not saying this is an exclusive thing, but there's a reason why the vast majority were not done by them.
Correct.
And while you can try to say that that is a specifically horror movie thing, or that's a specifically Western thing, the problem is at least half of the reason why those types of productions were avoided was because they didn't fit with the style of production that was considered normal or acceptable by the big studios.
Correct.
They didn't fit within the idea of what they considered to be prestige work.
Sure.
And because of that, it didn't fit. So whatever the next big revolution in filmmaking could be, if it falls within that same style of production, it is just as likely to be ostracized by the major studios and fall to the indie studios to do just like the westerns or horror movies. The problem being that if the big studios continue down their mergers and acquisition road that they've been doing for so long, there aren't going to be very many indie studios left to provide a home for this new cinematic revolution.
Of course.
And that's what could end up allowing the revolution to start and then fizzle out.
Now, the counter to that would be, first and foremost, is you have directors now that are, well, I'll just give you the perfect example is Michael Bay. And you and I talked about this a little bit. Michael Bay made Ambulance for $40 million.
Which is surprising that we're able to use him as a positive reference.
I'm going to repeat that. In the year, not 1993, Michael Bay made a movie for less than $50 million.
Which is hilarious that we can say anything in the double-digit millions is cheap.
It also grossed almost $70 million, which means total box office was, if I did my math correctly, about 120.
But then you have to factor in the marketing budget.
Sure.
And
distribution
costs.
That's gross. So that's after paying all of that out, it still made almost $70 million.
So that's still decent, but by most studio standards, only 70 mil, even if it was only 40 to be able to produce, is not great, because if it's not triple-digit millions, it doesn't count.
Well, he also did 13 Hours for $50 million. 55, I think.
Which was very impressive considering how absolutely spectacular that one was with practical effects.
And you know that I'm not exactly the biggest Michael Bay fan.
No.
But 13 Hours was great. Ambulance was actually surprisingly really good.
No, 13 Hours was one I saw in theaters just because I was genuinely interested for the story and because John Krasinski. John Krasinski.
Of course.
And then as soon as it hit Amazon Prime as one of the included movies, I lost track of how many times I had that thing on in the background while I was working. But it was on repeat for quite a while because it was just so freaking good.
And that was a big budget action movie that was made for less than half of what normal budget movies are today.
Yeah.
So it can be done.
It is possible.
It absolutely can be done. Now, the other thing that I would say...
Will it be accepted, though? Right. Will it be accepted by the big studios, since they are officially the gatekeepers?
Well, that's another thing, too, is, Blumhouse has their deal with, I think it was Paramount, if I remember right.
Yes.
It expires in 2024. Paramount basically has a right of first refusal.
Yes.
Okay? So Paramount gets to choose what gets made by Blumhouse, or they can pass on it. At which point, Blumhouse can then shop it to anybody that they want.
Okay.
And Blumhouse is still an independent production company.
Sure.
They are not owned by anybody.
Sure.
Same thing with Lionsgate. Lionsgate doesn't really have a distribution thing with anybody currently that I'm aware of, so they can basically shop to whoever they want.
Nobody specific as far as exclusivity.
Right.
Yeah. A24.
A24, which is mainly horror, but I mean, their name is still out there enough that anytime you see an A24 on a trailer, you're like, okay,
there's a minimum
see
quality.
What's coming. Yeah,
there's a minimum quality that you can assume.
The other one is actually, funny enough, Michael Bay's production company. I think, is it Paradise Dunes, if I remember correctly?
Sounds right.
He just reformed his production company with his old creative partner and producing partner. And that was actually, Ambulance was the first movie that they put under the reformed production company.
Well, and that's kind of the thing, though. Production companies in Hollywood are almost a dime a dozen.
Right.
It's the studios that back the movies and distribute them that are the hard...
Platinum Dunes. Sorry.
Okay. That's the hard one to beat.
Right.
Now, yes, in the age of streaming, especially with some of the smaller, more independent streaming platforms that are not directly owned by one of the big studios, it does give you a few opportunities. The problem there is going to be that there's a reason why the smaller streaming platforms are smaller, because their marketing budget is almost non-existent.
True.
So if you haven't put yourself in a position where either you've gotten a free trial for one of those and you figured, I've never heard of it, but why not? It's a free 30 days.
Right.
Or you are just that dedicated to keeping up with what's going on in the world of streaming, you probably have never heard of most of those smaller streaming platforms, and so anybody that tries to use them as the first point of distribution is going to have an insanely limited audience. And even if we want to believe that YouTube Premium is going to become a viable streaming platform for movies, which, I mean, they are obviously trying their damnedest, but they're terrible at actually following through.
Yep.
But
just a little bit.
Even if we want to assume that it does become viable,
right,
that still would require a certain level of marketing that these indie studios, these indie production houses would have to do just to be able to get even a fraction of the needed eyes on their movies to recoup the cost. So really, the last major thing that you have to be able to figure out is, no matter what happens with the big studios, how can you convince them and basically everybody else in the industry how to make money off of entertainment today in a way that does not exclusively require them to just chalk up losses as often as they can and only put money behind the guaranteed wins.
So that's a really good point. You ever hear of a movie called The Blair Witch Project?
Go on.
You know what Blair Witch's total gross was?
I don't recall, but I know it was a whole hell of a lot more than it cost.
$248.6 million.
And it cost how much again?
Well, that was 4,000 times its budget.
Which was what again?
Oh, I don't know that off the top of my head. I don't have that, unfortunately.
Google.
Fine.
Just Google it.
Fine, you son of a bitch. $60,000.
There we go.
Do you know how much? Do you know how much they spent on marketing? And do you remember the marketing campaign?
Oh, how could you forget that? If you were around during the time of marketing for that movie, it was. It was
this
the
actually
origin,
real? Is it not real?
It was the origin of viral marketing.
Yep.
Like before them, there was nothing in the world of marketing and advertising that could have been considered a viral marketing campaign.
Yep. That's one of the first real ones. Absolutely.
They showed that it was possible and introduced an entirely new concept to all of Madison Avenue in Hollywood that none of them, every one of them who had been in the industry for so many decades before, so many centuries before for the companies, had never even thought of.
How much did they spend on that marketing?
I know it was not that much.
About $15 million. On a $60,000 budget, and made $250 million after that. What did they not have back then that is basically taken over the world today?
The internet.
And?
Social media.
There you go. I don't have to spend a crap ton of money on marketing when this little guy right here has Twitter, has Instagram, has Facebook, has YouTube, has all of that. I can literally spend probably about $5 million on an actual marketing campaign to pay people and come up with some rough ideas for what to do, and then I can let social media take over and market the movie for me.
And anybody that wants to say a viral marketing campaign is not possible on social media without, just an excess of promoted posts, which would kind of defeat the purpose of a viral marketing campaign. I would like to refer you all back to the origins of YouTube, the early days, we'll say, and to an originally little-known channel called Lonely Girl 15. Whatever you thought about YouTube up until that point, whether you thought, oh, YouTube's just for cat videos, which, in fairness, yes, or you thought YouTube was just a bunch of dumb prank videos, or you thought it was just a bunch of random dude bros talking to a camera, or whatever. Lonely Girl 15 coming on and creating such a massively viral sensation almost overnight that just perplexed everybody and got more attention than I think almost any other YouTube channel had up until that point. That proved that viral marketing campaigns on social media were 100% possible as long as you understood the medium. And because so many people, especially if you want to go even past our generation and go down to like Gen Z. If you want to look at talent from especially Gen Z and say try to pluck out even a handful of them to be responsible for creating a viral social media campaign. They're a generation that literally grew up with social media. They understand the ins and outs of just about every platform out there, even if they've chosen to abandon it, like Facebook or whatever. And it is possible. They just have never had a reason to, or had the opportunity at that scale. So it is possible if the right talent is chosen and the right project is used as the proof of concept.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If, you said what's to keep them from just going with the surefire thing. Well, the surefire thing is great, but it's the example that I gave you when we were talking the other day, is I can make one surefire thing that's going to cost me like $300 million to make and may make $300 million back. Or for that cost, I can make, let's call it 8 to 10 movies that are risky investments.
Sure.
With a higher ROI, because all I need is for one of those to hit and make $100 million and I'm good. Now, does that necessarily mean that it's always going to be the top of the line scripts? Not necessarily. You know, there could be a wave of just not really good movies that come out because of something like this, because, hey, I want to be the guy that hit on this. I want to be the guy that found the next Paranormal Activity. I want to be the guy that found the next Blair Witch.
Yeah.
I want to be the guy that found, you know, the next How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, which was only a $40 million budget. Or the next 27 Dresses, which I think was only like a $60 million budget. I want to be the guy that makes that movie because I can say that I was right and everybody else was wrong.
Sure.
And I'm going to be rich as hell for it.
But that really comes back to the bigger overarching problem, which
Right.
is, even if you can get eyes on it,
Right.
how do you make money off of it? Because with streaming platforms, right now, the way that they have been set up and modeled is
Right.
that money is based on subscriptions, and eventually those run out.
Right.
Eventually, with how much content you have, trying to do a revenue split between different properties based on views, view time, view counts, whatever.
Well.
It's just like the problem with the YouTube Partners Program with ads.
Yep.
After a certain point, when you have enough people involved in the revenue splits, it's diminishing returns. And so,
Look, at the end of the day,
what do you do? Do you start offering more video on demand options for, you know, initial releases of movies on platforms like Disney Plus has been doing in lieu of theatrical releases for some movies? Do you go out and find other ways to monetize? Do you find ways to be able to take the new movies, new shows, whatever, and piecemeal it on multiple platforms so that you can try to get shares across other companies? I don't know.
Well,
that I think is going to be the hardest part of this whole problem to solve, because while we can start to come up with ideas, we're not the ones that control it. And
Right.
even if we were, there's so many moving parts behind the scenes
Yep.
for that,
Yep.
that I don't think the ultimate solution is going to be a simple solution. I think it's going to be a very
No.
complicated, multi-year process to come to that solution.
This is the ripple effects of this aren't going to be really felt for probably another 3 to 4 years.
At least.
Like, really, honestly, you can sit there and say this is an actual byproduct of the Warner Discovery merger.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
But also keep in mind, Netflix made a shitload of money off of Stranger Things. They are still making a shitload of money off of Stranger Things. And that was something that the Duffers literally pitched to them on a whim. These guys were completely unknown. They hadn't really done much of anything, if anything at all, before they even sold it to Netflix. They also hit with 13 Reasons Why. Netflix has hit on several original series. Now, people want to point to the fact that Netflix is losing on all of the existing content that's going to everybody else's streaming services. But I mean, if they continue to hit on their original content, they're going to be just fine. Apple TV is trying to get in the game right now. They have Ted Lasso. They have several other movies that they're trying to get made. They did what was the show with Steve Carell and
the morning show.
Yes, yeah. They're writing that still. That's been pretty successful for them. So there are still going to be streaming services, and there are still going to be people that want to get in the game and will be willing to back somebody that isn't a quote-unquote large investment, that is the indie filmmaker or the not big name.
Yeah.
They will be, like, I think that those are going to be the champions of the smaller filmmakers.
Yes. Lock and Key, the originals, especially the Magicians.
Yep.
Have you seen that, by the way?
I haven't. I've heard really good things, though.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's if you made Harry Potter, combined it with Chronicles of Narnia
Yeah.
and put it on HBO.
Yeah.
It is wonderful.
Yeah.
And so weird. It's amazing.
But the other thing that this could maybe you see a shift of more to a televised style of like, hey, we have this movie script. How would you pitch this to us if you turned it into a 3 to 4 season, 10 episode run?
Well, and that's kind of the part of what Netflix is currently talking about.
Right.
They've been talking about the idea of moving away from the binge model,
right,
and trying to push more towards weekly releases, which I totally agree with.
Disney has shown that it can be done.
Well, not just that, but that it works, because when you're looking at how long social sentiment and conversation lasts for a bingeable show,
right,
versus a weekly release show,
right,
the bingeable show lasts about as long as it takes for the majority of people that would have been interested in the show to get through it.
Or the douchebags
and then
to
a
start
couple weeks
posting
after.
spoilers on social media.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But weekly releases, it's however long it takes to fully get through the season, plus however many weeks after that it takes for the sentiment to fizzle out, depending on how popular it was. Because even a relatively moderate ho-hum show can still get a decent amount of conversation after the season's over,
right,
simply because people are still catching up, because there was at least something to talk about, and now more people are starting to jump into the conversation because they just now started the season, and on and on and on.
Yeah.
So it does have benefit just from the numbers and time.
Yeah.
But I will say, one final idea that we did kind of touch on off camera that could potentially make the whole how do you make money off of it moot point is, well, what if the indie studios don't have to worry about being bought out? What if the indie studios don't have to worry about a hostile takeover? Because
there's no such thing as a hostile takeover.
Not in Hollywood.
Especially in Hollywood. Come on.
But
you trying to say that Hollywood isn't on the up and up, Brad? Come on.
What if you got a modern day United Artists? Yep. And whether that comes in the form of an overarching company that gets a prevailing interest in each of the indie studios that are out there, or it ends up coming in the form of a studio side union that allows all of the smaller studios to come together and get some kind of united bargaining power against the big five to prevent them from getting swallowed up and allow them to be able to stand on equal footing together against any or all of the five major studios. And if that can happen, then the conversation of, well, how do you make money off of it becomes a little less necessary, because now the worry about loss of competition kind of diminishes.
Right.
Because as long as that exists, that united front exists with the smaller studios, competition is guaranteed, so the big studios still have to at least try to compete.
Yeah. And it's like it's the example that I gave of Blumhouse. You know, they're not owned by Paramount.
Yeah.
Paramount just gets the first say in like they just have to present, hey, we've got this script, would you like it? No? Cool, let's go shop it to everybody else.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So that would be like the example you just gave. Like, what if they all did that? What if all of the remaining independent studios basically said, cool, so we will partner with you on a first right of refusal. You get the first crack at what we present. If you don't like it, we'll shop it somewhere else.
Yeah.
It allows them to stay independent. It keeps essentially like what would be for lack of a better term, a farm system, like you have in sports, where you have like a minor league that sends prospects to the major leagues.
Yeah.
You would basically have a pipeline of new material and new movies, TV, whatever coming up. It would keep fresh stuff coming through the pipeline. this studio can say, nah, we don't really like this. We'll let you shop it to other people. Oh, that studio didn't like what you guys, Warner Brothers didn't like what was presented by Lionsgate.
Yeah.
But we like it. And Warner's passed on it, so, hey, why don't you guys come have a meeting with us and we'll see what we can do.
Which, I mean, in all fairness, there's a reason why that model has worked in sports.
Right.
Because you would never in a million years view major and minor league sports as being competitors. No. But they absolutely have a purpose and a place together within that world of sports, that world of baseball or football or whatever. There is a reason why it exists, and they need each other in order to maintain the continued quality of talent that they keep getting, because if they only ever went and searched from schools, whether high school or college, and only scouted there would be a point where they'd be losing out on some great opportunities for people that just need a couple more years.
Here's another analogy for you, Brad. What's the team with the highest payroll in baseball? It's the Yankees.
I was about to say, I feel like it's the obvious answer.
They have been for years. They just throw money at whoever they want to buy, and they get the best players. When's the last time they won a World Series? 2009. So just because you buy the most things and just because you spend the most money doesn't mean you always return on your investment.
That's fair. But yeah, so as you can tell, this is a really big conversation that there really isn't an easy answer to. There are a lot of potentially interesting and worrying options that could come out of what's happening with Warner Brothers Discovery. And whether or not the pessimist or the optimist, still weird that that's the order that we're going in. But regardless of whether the pessimist or the optimist is correct in any or all counts, we are guaranteed that the next few years coming out of Hollywood and coming from our entertainment is going to be a little bumpy and maybe more than a little chaotic, but there is a very serious potential for some real fresh creativity to come onto the scene. And if we're lucky enough that that's what takes hold, then I think people like us, movie lovers and lovers of great entertainment are going to be in for one wild ride. So hopefully I am wrong, and that we really do get that cinematic revolution that we are dying for.
And it's possible it never comes.
Yeah.
It's possible. It's possible everything I said comes true. It's possible everything you said comes true. It's possible that nothing changes.
If there's one thing consistent about Hollywood.
It's possible that every studio like Disney has their model, and why would they change it?
Oh, the mouse wouldn't.
Exactly.
Because the mouse dominates.
Exactly.
And if the mouse doesn't like you, they just buy you and then bury you.
Except for South Park. They haven't bought South Park yet.
Well, there's a reason for that. Because even the mouse is a little timid around Viacom. Because Viacom is just...
The fact that they made
they're just assholes.
The fact that they made... The fact that South Park made a joke about Disney buying South Park in a South Park episode.
Still great.
The hell's a South Park? Do I own them yet? Oh. Not yet, sir.
With that, though, guys, thank you so much for joining us. As always, if you've made it this far, which 50 minutes in, congratulations. You've done a fantastic job.
Checks in the mail.
Thank you, if you have. And be sure, if you want to check out more of our content, you can always catch our live shows and pre-recorded over on Facebook. Don't forget to like and follow if you're not already. And don't forget to like and subscribe over on YouTube, as well as hit that little notification bell, because YouTube's not always the best at explaining when we post stuff or when we go live. And so if you hit that notification bell and say all notifications, you are guaranteed to know when we put something out next. And of course, if you want to see more of our content but don't have time to actually watch it, you just want to experience it, you can check out the audio recordings of our live shows, interviews, and other fun things that we do over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, and Stitcher, because
Yeah. Can we start talking about the big fun thing we're going to do at the end of the month? Next month?
I was about to say, we're already at the end of the month.
October.
Yes. Actually, yes, we absolutely can. So what are we doing at the end of October, Mike?
Well, since it's spooky season, we're going to be at Madness.
Don't you mean spooky?
Sorry.
Spooky season?
No, because I'm a grown-ass man, Brad.
It's fair. Kyla would agree.
Kyla's a damn child. It's spook. Be glad I'm even calling it spooky season. Ungrateful bastard.
I love it.
So we will be at Madness Games and Comics the day before All Hallows Eve, the 30th of October, doing our
What day of the week is that?
It is a Saturday.
There you go.
Last Saturday of the month, doing our Halloween live extravaganza. I have already let a certain person that has been with us for the last 4 Halloweens know that they better keep that day and that time open, or we're going to break his damn legs.
Have you told him that we aren't going to have a live censor button for the live audience?
We're not?
Well, I mean, the online audience, sure, but the in-person. Yeah. This
is going to be even better, though.
Because, kids go to that store.
True.
It's going to make it interesting.
But what's the meme?
So many.
Hard to F-bomb them kids.
Anyway, yes.
I could have said it, but I didn't.
We are absolutely going to be having fun with our annual Halloween special at Madness.
We just got to think what the hell we're
going to
talk about.
Shh. Don't tell them we don't know this stuff already.
Right. Oh, shit, we barely knew we were going to talk about this today.
I mean, I feel like we had an idea. We've been only talking about it for like a month now.
That's right.
But yeah, so definitely if you're going to be...
I didn't come prepared to talk about this, and I won. If
you are here in North Texas, definitely go come join us at Madness at the end of the month. And if you are not in North Texas, it's not that far of a drive. I don't know where you live, but I'm sure it's not that far of a drive, so you can make it down here. It is going to be an amazing time. Plus, if you've never been to Madness, it's just an incredible place.
Absolutely.
It has basically everything your nerdy heart could ever want. Absolutely. And then some.
Yeah.
So definitely go check it out. And until next time.
Sorry, I gotta pee, so we can wrap this up.
That's fine.
Yeah.
As always, I'm Brad. That's Mike. We're Dallas Geek. And see ya.
Hit the button. I gotta go to the bathroom.